What's up, everybody? Welcome into First Take. We are in rare form today. I think everybody's just sleep-deprived at this point. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam. Gentlemen, how are we?
What's up? What's up? How y'all doing?
Good.
I would like to publicly thank my friend LeBron James for not showing up down the stretch of that last game in Toronto, Game 4, which forced my friend Stephen A. Smith to go back to Cleveland, where he sits right now, and he's also destined to have to go back to Toronto.
I don't have any problem with coming to Cleveland. I understand that part. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'll forgive the Cavs for forcing me to have to go across the border and to have to go through. Because Toronto is a sensational city. But getting through customs and back, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to hold this against the Cavaliers for a long time. I really am. I'm
Stephen A. Smith, though, should have PSA pre-check through customs. You know, like where they just pass you through, right?
They don't appear to do that in Canada. But give me some time. I will make sure to ingratiate myself with the citizens of Toronto, Canada. I'll see to that.
Just chant "We the North." They'll let you through.
That's true.
All right, let's get into it, guys. So the Western Conference Finals taking a turn that none of us expected. The Warriors lost back-to-back games for the first time this season as the Thunder dominated them in Game 4, and the champs on the brink of elimination. Not the brink of the brink like yesterday. They are on the brink. Stephen A., what turned this series around?
To be quite honest with you, Billy Donovan and Russell Westbrook. When I think about Billy Donovan, I think about the fact that this is a man that is in his rookie year as a head coach, obviously being incredibly assisted by the great Mo Cheeks as his lead assistant coach. But I'm looking at Billy Donovan. I'm looking at him making the adjustments to the Steven Adams and the Enes Kanter, whether it be against San Antonio and now Golden State. I'm thinking about how LaMarcus Aldridge for San Antonio was averaging 40 in the first 2 games and then basically disappeared from then on because Billy Donovan instructed boys to get a bit physical with them, and we found out that as skilled as LaMarcus Aldridge is, he can be a bit soft from time to time. I'm being nice this morning. And then we go to OKC, and then you're going up against Golden State, and here you are with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and the crew. You lose Game 1. I'm sorry, you win Game 1. You come back and obviously struggle in Game 2. But in Game 1, you really go at them. And you got the Adams and the Cantors of the world in the game with Ibaka, and they're doing their thing. And then they make adjustments. And what do? You come back in Game 3. You go small with Ibaka at the 5. And all of a sudden, you're running them out the building. So you're showing the ability to make these adjustments. We get so accustomed to seeing NBA coaches just do their thing and say, hey, this is the way it's done in this league. Well, Billy Donovan is saying, no, it's a new day, it's a new era, and coaching is about making adjustments on the fly, not about just coming in with a game plan and sticking to it no matter what. You've got to make the adjustments. So I got to give Billy Donovan a boatload of credit and Sam Presti, because right now it looks like a great hire. I'm seeing him do things that I just didn't see Scott Brooks doing, and I like Scott Brooks, and he's a damn good coach, but I didn't see him doing some of these things when he was the head coach for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Billy Donovan deserves a lot of credit. But Russell Westbrook, and I'm going to bring this name up, Skip Bayless, I'm going to ask a rhetorical or somewhat rhetorical question yet again to you. Who has craved a matchup between Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry more than me? I've been talking about it all year long. I was so looking forward to that Super Bowl Eve encounter on February 6th in Golden State. I've talked religiously and repeatedly about Russell Westbrook going up against him. And even when Russell Westbrook shot 35% from the field in 3 losses to Golden State during the regular season, I told y'all, this brother is coming. He's not the kind of guy that's just going to sit idly by, watch the world rave and sing about Steph Curry and shower him with all of these laudables and all of this praise. And Russell Westbrook is just going to sit by and let him do what he wants to do. I have never, ever seen Steph Curry attacked by a player the way Russell Westbrook has been attacking him. Steph Curry, I mean, this guy, you can see Russell Westbrook drooling at the mouth at the opportunity to go at Steph Curry. And to be quite honest with you, he's pretty much annihilating him. I mean, it's just the truth. The Steph Curry is deserving of being the 2-time league MVP. He is absolutely big time. But with the exception of 1 quarter in this series. Skip, I can make a legitimate argument that Russell Westbrook has completely outplayed the two-time reigning league MVP. And in the process, he's humbling him and the Golden State Warriors. They have to respond. I told you it was cold red yesterday. You know it's damn sure cold red right now. Kevin Durant had a relatively subpar game. Roberson came off the bench with 17 critical points and did his thing. We see what Ibaka's doing with his own 17 points, a couple of blocks to go along with his 7 rebounds as well. And Steven Adams' physical presence is imposing. They're physical, they're long, and they're beating up the Golden State Warriors, out-rebounding them, outscoring them with points in the paint, etc. But the real key here is that there's a superstar in Kevin Durant who's really shining, no matter what his shooting percentage is from game to game. But he is supported by the most ruthless, vicious competitor in the game today who plays opponents like he hates them. And if he does that with normal dudes, can you imagine what he feels about Steph Curry, strictly in basketball parlance, of course? Russell Westbrook is putting the world on notice. Steph who? Did y'all forget who the hell I am? And that is what is going on here. And as a result, Oklahoma City is up 3-1. And Skip, I'm here to tell you, I believe they're not just going to show up in Game 5. They're going to do everything they can to avoid Game 6 and try to close them out tomorrow night. I'm just telling you right now, these boys look ruthless and vicious. It's the team that I envisioned when I picked them to come out of the West before the season began, and obviously before I lost faith in them when they lost 15 fourth-quarter leads during the regular season.
I must say I agree with every point you just made. And to your point, you have been the Don King hyping Steph versus Russ. Steph versus Russ. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Although I don't think you expected that Russ would annihilate Steph consistently.
I did not expect that.
Who else?
I did not.
Who did?
I did not.
And another quick point before I launch. You know, you keep making the point about Steven Adams. These whole playoffs have been a coming out party for Steven Adams, to the point that it just occurred to me as you were speaking, I just might have to start calling Steven Adams Stephen A, because he's been that good. He's been good enough to be called Stephen A, right?
Yeah. You know what? He has.
You know what?
He has. I kind of like that.
He has.
I kind of like that.
Stephen A.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. I don't want him having my name
I know.
after the comment
It's
he made
funny.
the other day about that. I can't
I
have
agree.
that.
Stevie,
I forgive him. I forgive him, but I can't have that.
He's only 22, so he's like a Stevie,
Yeah.
okay?
Yes,
All right,
Stevie
we'll
A.
give you that.
All right.
Now, back to all your points. Would you please allow me to put this in some context and perspective? Can I remind our viewers just how shocking what you're seeing actually is? Can I remind everyone that Golden State, mostly because of Steph Curry, beat Oklahoma City all 3 times in the regular season because Steph just took over down the stretch of all 3 games? And may I remind everyone out there in viewerland that Golden State has been favored by the Las Vegas odds makers, the sharps, the smart guys in Vegas. They've been favored to win all 4 of these games. All 4. The first one by 7.5 at Golden State, second one by 9 at Golden State, by 2.5 in the first game at Oklahoma City, and last night, Golden State was still favored to win by 2 points. Think about that. This has been a nightly upset, quote unquote, except that the tables have now swung. They've turned so completely and so convincingly that all of a sudden Oklahoma City looks like, dare I say, a dominating to the point of unbeatable underdog. They've been an underdog in all 4 games, and they look like they can't be beaten. They have imposed their will completely on the defending champs who won a record 73 games. Let that sink in. They have completely imposed their will. Golden State has looked overmatched to the point of being overwhelmed. They have no answers for what has happened in Oklahoma City. And to me, the biggest picture takeaway here is that right before your very eyes, and certainly when I least expected it, the Oklahoma City Thunder grew up. They matured into their massive talent right before your very eyes. They arrived right on schedule, and suddenly they've arrived so completely and convincingly, they look like they should be the favorites now to win it all, to win the title. And Stephen A., the shocker to me is, obviously, they blew 14 fourth-quarter leads going into the fourth quarter during the regular season, one against Dallas in the playoffs. This team finally figured out how to take a punch, maybe in the third quarter or maybe in the fourth quarter. They took some last night. They took one from Clay in the third quarter, and they punch back. They have figured out how to close the deal. And it starts with Kevin Durant, to me, because he has matured into the leader of this basketball team. I loved it at the end, how he gathered everybody around. He puts his arms around them. He can put his arms around like 9 guys at one time because they're so long. And he is now he's become the big brother figure of this team, where he's the older guy now. He's not the baby anymore.
And he's acting like it.
He is.
And
he's acting like it.
He's
Wow.
always been a good guy. He's always been a good guy.
Seriously.
He's always been a good guy. But right now, it's like he's embraced. You see it during press conferences. You see it during the games. He's embraced the leadership role, no question.
Okay, now, the other huge change to your point about Russell Westbrook happened at my expense. The turning point of this whole playoffs happened after Game 3, Spurs, my Spurs versus Thunder at Oklahoma City. Remember that Friday night? My Spurs went into that house of hysteria in Oklahoma City, my hometown, and my Spurs won the game 100-96, and they did it convincingly, mostly because Russell Westbrook shot himself in the foot. He took 31 shots and made only 10. Remember that night, Stephen A?
Yeah.
And remember right after the game? Russell Westbrook shocked me by stepping up and taking complete and full blame for what had just happened. And he all but vowed, won't happen again. I will get my teammates involved. Well, let me finish this. Just to that point, the most glaring stat right now in this series, these 4 games versus Golden State, Russell Westbrook has averaged 11.8 assists per game in these 4. Steph Curry, meanwhile, has averaged 4.5 assists.
Well,
11 to 4.5. It's almost like 12 to 4.5. Wow. That's glaring. That's shocking. And he is getting everybody involved.
Skip, the only reason I'm going to challenge that, I'm not going to hold that against Steph Curry, because Steph Curry has gotten the ball to other people and they've been missing shots. The length and the physicality of Oklahoma City has been too much. Harrison Barnes has been virtually non-existent. I mean, I know he hit 4 of his 6 shots yesterday, but key turnovers, lack of aggression. Andre Iguodala, the finals MVP, 8 points in 33 minutes. You need more from him, and suddenly he can't find it. He hit 2 or 4 threes, but there just seems to be something missing. But Skip, let me say this, man. We're talking about the players. I'm sorry. I mean, no disrespect. The coach of the year, I'm sorry, where is he? He's getting outcoached. Let's call it what it is. Because let me tell you something. Steve Kerr looks like he has no answers. 0. No answers. Where was the defense? 42 points in the second quarter? 42 points? I mean, this is after you got ran out of the gym in the second quarter in Game 3. And Oklahoma City comes back and does the same thing to you this time around. If it were not for Klay Thompson's explosion, which ain't about plays, because this dude just made shots, 19 straight points, they might have lost by 40 again, okay? Where's the adjustments? What's happening? What can you do? I mean, I'm looking at Steve Kerr on the bench. No answers. No answers whatsoever.
All right, I got a question.
Sure.
Should he bench Steph Curry?
Oh, absolutely not.
Well,
let's not act like we're on drugs. Come on now.
But here's my point. Steph Curry hasn't been very good in any of these games.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I understand that, but the point is, Steph Curry has no business sticking Russell Westbrook. Let's call this what it is. I'm just tired. I'm just tired of it right now. There are dudes that are offensive players. Steph Curry doesn't even need to be in the same vicinity as Russell Westbrook defensively. Stay the hell away from him. He can't guard Steph Curry. He can't guard Russell Westbrook. Not in a million years. Russell Westbrook, and there's no insult to Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook is unguardable.
Yeah.
He cannot be guarded by any human one-on-one.
Okay.
It is impossible. It is impossible.
Now, I did see Clay took him a good bit last night. They would switch off.
They would switch off, but what I'm saying to you is this. Steve Kerr was trying to hide Curry. He had him on Roberson. Then what did Billy Donovan do? Roberson got the ball. He had him on Dion Waiters. What did Donovan do? Dion Waiters would try to do something. Everybody that Steph Curry is on, they are attacking him. And Steve Kerr can't seem to figure out what to do about it. Now, I don't know if there's anything to do about it, but I know if you're the coach of the year, and I know if you're Mr. Coach of the Year, even though you only coach 39 games, and I know that if you're the guy that took over for Mark Jackson and was gift-wrapped a championship caliber squad, I do expect more. I do expect more. Steve Kerr can coach. Nobody's up here disrespecting him. I like him a lot, and I think he's done a hell of a job. But in this particular series, I'm looking at Billy Donovan making a whole bunch of adjustments. I see none from Steve Kerr. Now, maybe he's tried it and it's not working, but I see let me be more accurate. I'm not saying he hasn't tried adjustments. I'm saying I see nothing that he has done that is working. This is bad. This is very, very bad.
Not to overly defend Steve Kerr, but Steph Curry, the unanimous MVP and back-to-back MVP, was 0 for 5 last night on uncontested three-point shots.
Sure.
He's shooting 37% from three in this series, which is way, way below. He's close to, as you know, close to a 50% three-point shooter. So what's happened in this series is Steph Curry has no longer been magic. He's looked more like a 7th pick in the draft than he was.
I did not mean to give the impression that it's Steve Kerr's fault and not Steph Curry's. Steph Curry is the 2-time reigning league MVP. Steph Curry is big time. He is the greatest shooter that I've ever seen. He is being straight humbled right now by the greatness of Russell Westbrook, who has put the world on notice. This brother can't hang with me. Yep. Now, I don't believe that's true, but I'm saying based on what we have seen in this series thus far, Steph Curry is being called out by the game of Russell Westbrook because Russell Westbrook is going at him and saying, I'm on another level. You need to ask somebody. All I'm saying about Steve Kerr, however, is that while it's not primarily his fault, I can't help but notice what he's not doing because I'm seeing what Billy Donovan is doing. Billy Donovan it's not just about leaning on Durant and Westbrook. Billy Donovan is coaching.
Okay, here's the point, though. What lineup did all of our analytics experts rave about all year because it was invincible for Golden State? The death lineup, which has now been death to Golden State because Billy Donovan has said each time, okay, I'll go small, too. I'll play Ibaka at center, and they have crushed them with that lineup, small to small.
But what I'm asking you to do, Skip, I'm not disagreeing with whatever you just said, with anything you just said. What I'm asking you to appreciate is the fact that Billy Donovan has had an answer for everything Steve Kerr has thrown at him. Steve Kerr hasn't had an answer for Billy Donovan. You didn't know they were longer. You didn't know they were more physical. You didn't know that they were going to try to impose their will upon you. You didn't know that Russell Westbrook was this ruthless assassin that was going to come at you with such relentlessness that it could potentially punk your whole squad. You did not know this. You did not know this.
That there might not be any answer to what you're talking about.
I understand.
Maybe what you just said is too good.
And I guess what I'm saying to you is, well, then what you're saying to me is it wasn't coaching. It was the players.
I'll buy that.
Touche.
I'll give you that.
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
Because again, if we can't give Steve Kerr some culpability, then what the hell did he get all the credit for?
You got it.
All right, hold that thought. History certainly on Golden State's side, but is the series over? We debate that next. Don't go anywhere. Just getting started.
Stephen A., 10.5-point favorites. I'm going to give Toronto a 30% chance to win tonight. And I remind you, after game 1 at Cleveland, I gave Toronto a 0% chance of winning Game 2 in Cleveland, in which they once again were embarrassed and humiliated and annihilated to the point that I said mannequins could play better defense than the Raptors were playing against those Cavs in Game 2. And yet, the focal point for me tonight, and the reason I'm going to up my percentage to give them a 30% shot, is Bismack Biyombo. He's got some Oklahoma City going in him, Stephen A. He reminds me of what's happening with the Thunder, except in microcosm and just one player in Toronto. While the Thunder have suddenly arrived, found themselves, figured it all out, so has Biyombo. And it's been shocking to me that in games 3 and 4, he was a dominating player in the paint, shot blocking, rebounding. And I wondered out loud on the show the other day, did Biyombo, did he even make the trip to Cleveland for games 1 and 2? Because I couldn't remember him playing. Obviously, the games got out of control so quickly, I couldn't remember any Raptors player playing. But in game 1, Biyombo had 4 rebounds and no blocks. In game 2, he had 5 rebounds and 2 blocks. And then in games 3 and 4 combined, he had 40 rebounds and 7 blocks and annihilated a player I have high regard for in Tristan Thompson. Completely outplayed him, made him look pretty foolish to me. I assume Tristan will rise and shine tonight. I assume that LeBron James, who now owes his team a game after he disappeared down the stretch the last 5.5 minutes of game 4 back in Toronto, I think LeBron's going to rise and shine tonight and make sure this is 3-2 going back to Toronto. But the other reason, and the final reason I give Toronto a 30% chance, a fighting chance, is because all of a sudden, for the first time, maybe all year, Cleveland is second-guessing Cleveland. There's some internal finger-pointing. There's some angst. There's some, who are we? Are we three-point launchers or are we paint pounders? Who are we now? And I think they're a little off balance. They're not sure. Kevin Love's way off balance. Not only does he have some kind of a tweaked knee, but his psyche's completely out of whack. So I don't know that they could trust him tonight. But I do trust LeBron tonight. And I think he and he alone will be the difference in what I do think will be a battle. This will not resemble games 1 or 2, but I still think Cleveland will make it 3-2.
Well, I'm going to point my focus in the direction of LeBron James. Kevin Love has indeed shot 5 for 23 over the last 2 games. He's been pretty pathetic offensively. He needs to get himself going and remind the world that he's worth at least a portion of the $113 million that he's receiving. J.R. Smith needs to recognize that just because you're not making jump shots doesn't mean you can't play the game of basketball. There is such a thing as dribbling and driving to the basket, getting fouled and going to the free throw line, because we know you can do that. Okay, Matthew Dellavedova, it would help that, you know, if in shoot-arounds and warm-ups, if you could hit 9 or 10 three-point shots, could you try not to shoot an air ball at a critical moment from a wide-open three-point shot in the right corner? That would really, really be nice. And Tristan Thompson, a guy that I'm incredibly fond of. I'm happy he got his money. But your lone job description is to man the interior from a rebounding and shot blocking and defensive presence, nevertheless. But that's your lone responsibility. It's bad enough that you didn't do it that well. But to be completely dominated over the course of 2 games by a Bismack Biyombo, waving his finger like he's Dikembe Mutombo, Tristan Thompson should be embarrassed and make sure he does everything he can to make amends. Having said all of that, I'm going to reiterate, I'm looking at LeBron James. I do understand that he played nearly 46 minutes. I do understand that fatigue may have played a factor. But as far as I'm concerned, if fatigue was so much of a factor, what the hell were you on the court for? Go to the bench, take a 60-second breather if you can. Do whatever, all right? And then come back on the court. Drink a splash of Gatorade or whatever it is that you drink. Gatorade, Powerade, whatever it is, okay? Whatever has that alkaline in it, whatever it is, okay? Or electrolytes, rather. Electrolytes, okay?
Be careful
Here's
of
the
that
deal.
alkaline.
Here's the deal. LeBron James scored his last basket with 5 minutes and 23 seconds left in the 4th quarter. At that juncture, the Cleveland Cavaliers were up 94-92 after overcoming an 18-point deficit. You are universally recognized, accurately so, as being one of the top 2 players on the planet, and you attempt one shot in the last 5.5 minutes, and you don't attempt one single shot in the last 3 against Toronto, against Damari Carroll? And in the meantime, y'all can't stop Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, 2 All-Stars, very good. But I think when we look at them, if you look at a tandem, Skip, I ask you to pick 3, to pick of these 3. Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, or DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. Who's going to finish 3rd? It's going to be the boys in Toronto.
Yeah,
and you can't.
You can throw in LeBron and Kyrie in there, too, just for that.
No, I'm just saying, all right, for them. Who's going to come in last place?
Yeah.
Who's going to come in last place? It's going to be Toronto.
Yeah.
And you can't stop them. They both drop plus 30 on you, both of them. Both of them. Not even one of them, both. Yeah. I mean, come on. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, look, the King James, handle it. I have no doubt that he can.
Yep.
And I'm not getting on him for how he played. He had 29 points on the 16 shots. I'm just sitting there. The only thing I'm getting on LeBron about here is shoot the damn ball. That's it. That's all I'm getting on him about. I'm not talking about misses or makes. He could have shot 10 times and missed all 10 of his shots. I'd have said, Skip, bad break.
Yep,
it happens.
I agree.
My issue is, how do you justify attempting one shot in the last 5:28 of a tight game in the conference finals when a win would put you in position to close them out on your home court tonight? How do you pass that up? That don't make sense to me. That don't make sense to me.
Okay, so now, here's the deal. The pressure now falls squarely back on the home team, LeBron's team. The pressure is off the visiting team. And you know and I know Toronto very well might just be a home court product this year where they play way better at home than they do on the road. Okay?
That's who they are.
That's fine. But you know and I know the Raptors are feeling real good about themselves right now because pressure is off. They did what they had to do. It's 2-all. Nobody expects them. They're 10.5-point underdogs tonight. You tell me, you don't think they'll play a little fast and loose tonight? Like just let it fly?
They might play fast and loose, but I think that they will get. I'm going to side with LeBron James here. I believe that they are going to get overwhelmed tonight, lose by plus 20, and then they're going to go back to Toronto, and it's going to be a tightly contested contest that Cleveland is going to pull out. Even if Cleveland wins, if this series goes 7 games, it's a disappointment.
I don't see Toronto losing by plus 20 tonight.
Okay.
I just think they got too much confidence coming in. I hope you're right because I want to see LeBron have a big game tonight, but I don't think it'll be 20, maybe 10.
He needs to make amends.
Yeah, he does.
For his no-show over the last 5 minutes. Offensively, of course. He was playing defense, but offensively, he needs to make amends for his no-show in the last 5 minutes.
Our coverage starts 7:30 on NBA Countdown. We're going to step aside from the playoffs for a moment. Another very interesting subject to address here. So over the past 10 years, there's been a lot of focus in sports on numbers and percentages. Well, our Michael Wilbon suggests there is a racial divide on analytics. We get into it and debate it next. Stay here.
He should drop the issue because it's not going anywhere. It's very, very physical in the AFC North, which he also admitted. They hate one another. It's a true rivalry, and we understand that. I would like to see members of the Cincinnati Bengals exercising more discipline, however, because you're representing Coach Marvin Lewis, and you're not making him look good by conducting yourself in a hooligan, in a hooligan-style fashion, assuming that kind of stuff is true. And obviously with Vontaze Burfict and what happened the last time we saw the Bengals, people are going to assume that it is. They want to hit, they want to intimidate. They're vicious, they're incredibly talented, so there's no reason to go the extra mile doing what they've been doing there. There's no reason to do that.
I'm surprised at this. This is unbecoming of a Pittsburgh Steeler to come across as whining about, they hurt me. They're trying to hurt me. Really? Yeah, come on, stop it.
That's true.
You don't need to talk. Thank you for saying that. Just shut up and go beat them next year. You got 2 shots next year to get even with them, and This young man is highly capable of getting even, and that's what he should be focused on.
And go at them the way that they go at you. It's just that I want the guys to be cognizant of who they're representing, especially moving forward next year. After the way this season ended, they got a real bad reputation because of what transpired. Cincinnati is too talented to be recognized for something dirty. They can beat you up legally.
They can, but seriously, every team you play tries to quote-unquote hurt the running back. It's just what the game is about. Just deal with it.
But he's talking about dirty stuff.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. Yeah.
We are off tomorrow, but we'll be back Friday. Skip might play golf. Stephen A. going to Toronto. Struggles.
Well, he has culpability. He's the coach. He's the guy that is being outshined by Billy Donovan. If Billy Donovan had no impact, then we'd just be looking at the players and talking about how, one team is simply better than the other. But when you look at Billy Donovan and the adjustments that he's making, that's when you look at Kerr and say, okay, how are you going to counter that? We go into a lineup and it's Adams and Cantor 1 minute. It's them out and Ibaka in the next. It's Adams next. It's Ibaka's out and, and what have you. And you just look at what's transpiring. It's Russell Westbrook on Steph Curry. It's Roberson on Steph Curry. You get out to the three. It's Kevin Durant on there. They're switching. 1 minute they're switching. Another thing they're fighting. Another minute they're fighting through picks. They're not switching at all. You're just watching things that manifest itself, that transpire. And it says to you that Billy Donovan is coaching this team, and you just get the impression. And maybe Skip, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but there are a lot of times where I know they showed Steve Kerr just standing up on video and banging, flailing his arms or doing something, but a lot of times you just see Steve Kerr sitting there next to Luke Walton, and he looks as helpless as the players. I remember one time when in Game 3, Oklahoma City's making a run, and you literally could see the players looking over at the bench for help from Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr just said, just shook his head, no, I can't help you. And I didn't blame him for it, but you are looking for him to do something more than has been done.
I did wonder a couple of times last night when they showed Kerr beside Luke Walton, what was going on in Luke Walton's head. Did he have a quick fix that he would like to try to implement? Obviously, he was the head coach of this team for a while, and he's going to be the head coach in L.A. So I was curious what was going through his mind. But, Stephen A., in the end, I'm not going to be a hypocrite about this. If I had a glaring criticism of Steve Kerr, if I were ready to say he should have done this or he shouldn't have done that, I would blame him. But instead, all I can do at this moment is credit Billy Donovan, and we haven't brought up this name yet, Mo Cheeks, for the job he's done with Russell Westbrook. Did you? I'm sorry, I missed that. But listen, those two together, and Mo was gone for a period this year. Obviously, they've had all kinds of trouble with their assistants, and the tragedy that happened to the other assistant is almost unspeakable. And God bless him and his family. But in this case, Billy Donovan's just turning into a star right before your very eyes at the expense of Steve Kerr. I don't see an answer that's obvious. Steve Kerr can't make Steph Curry make open shots, and he missed 5 open threes. And in the end, the one area I would criticize him for, his team just isn't ready to play on a nightly basis because they are running into an Oklahoma tornado. It is blowing them off the floor. They're getting out-hustled, out-toughed, out-scrapped. And is that his fault? Is there some motivation that's not happening pregame? Are they a little too cool for school? Are they just saying, we got this? Steph's attitude, it's kind of like, I'm cool and you're not. It's just the way they play. That's their RPM. They outskill you, they outshoot you, and all of a sudden, they're just getting out-scrapped here. So, I don't know, is that Steve Kerr's fault? Should he motivate harder?
No, but they were 73-9, and they had to win the last 4 games of the regular season prior to these playoffs. There are people that are going to bring that up. I'm not, because I don't have a problem with what he did. I understand it. But the other side to this, Skip, again, is I'm not saying that he's primarily to blame, but how does he walk away unscathed if it was anybody else? Would they be able to do that? We'd be looking at Billy Donovan, looking at what he's done, and we would say, Steve Kerr, what answer do you have for this? And, oh, by the way, you gave up 42 points in the second quarter. The other night you gave up 38 in the second quarter and 45 in the third quarter. No, you can't help Steph Curry and them make shots. But where's your defense?
Yep.
He has nothing to do with that?
Agreed.
Game 5 tomorrow in Oakland. And talk about walking away unscathed. That didn't happen for the team Stephen A. claims. Le'Veon Bell hasn't forgotten where his season came to an end. You want to stick around to hear what he is saying now about the Bengals. That's next. That he's better than Steph Curry, and the results are in here, gentlemen. 58% say yes, Westbrook is better.
True.
Stephen A.?
Well, first of all, those numbers don't prove, as far as I'm concerned, what it really proves is that people don't know basketball, because what you're looking at is the head-to-head matchup against somebody as opposed to their overall game. Just because Russell Westbrook is out playing Steph Curry, particularly going at Steph Curry, doesn't make him better than Steph Curry. This is not a one-on-one matchup. This is a game, a team game, and there are a bevy of elements that come into the equation to define what greatness is and who brings more of a level of greatness to the table. Having said all of that, it's not like it's a runaway issue. It's always been close. Russell Westbrook is a superstar. So is Steph Curry. Russell Westbrook is a better athlete. Steph Curry's a better shooter. Steph Curry makes better decisions with the basketball. Russell Westbrook has more in his arsenal if he's not making jump shots. Russell Westbrook seems to be a bit tougher defensively than Steph Curry. So you could make the argument that he's better. It depends on what you're looking for and what team that you're on. But I'd say it's right up there. It's very close. Neither should be disrespected. What I would tell you is that as point guards, Steph Curry is slightly better because he usually makes better decisions, plus he's a greater threat from the perimeter. Whereas Russell Westbrook will win games for you, but he'll also lose games for you with some of his decision making. Again, they're both superstars, and it's very close. But because of the position that they play, if Russell Westbrook was a shooting guard, and so was Steph Curry, I'd tell you, or Russell Westbrook was a scoring forward or whatever, I would tell you that Russell Westbrook is slightly better because of what he does on both ends. But because they're point guards, and your responsibility is to run the show, not just score, keep turnovers down, get other people involved, and all of this other stuff. Even though Russell Westbrook now in this postseason, combined with the regular season, has registered about 19 triple-doubles, the reality is there have been some games where his decision-making has been questionable, whereas that hasn't been the case up until this series with Steph Curry. So I would give Steph Curry a very slight edge, but again, it's pick your poison because both of them are lethal.
Yet and still, on a daily basis, I'm hearing you get more and more enthusiastic to the point of crazed about the assassin that is Russell Westbrook, how hard he plays on a dribble-by-dribble basis. That I think if I ask you, who would you start your team, who would you build your team around, I think you might go Russell Westbrook right now.
Yeah, because that motor is something that matters to me. But it doesn't matter in the equation of who's the better player. It matters in terms of what I need to galvanize the rest of the troops around me. You're not going to be lazy playing with Russell Westbrook and last very long.
Okay. To answer the question, I disagree with the 58%. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a prisoner of this moment. And we are in a moment and overreact and say, yeah, Russell Westbrook has proven he's better than Steph Curry, the back-to-back MVP and the unanimous first ever unanimous MVP this year. Sorry, not going to do it. I need to throw this out. Obviously, Russell Westbrook is playing better right now, but should we put any kind of asterisk here? Should we give Steph any break? And I don't have an answer to this, Stephen A. Smith. I know what my eyes are telling me about whether Steph is injured or not. I don't see him injured in his legs. I know he's had the big ankle injury, an issue, and he's had the knee injury, an issue. Might be ongoing, but he still looks as quick as ever to my eye. Is that shooting elbow that he banged up back in Oakland that swelled to the size of a tennis ball, is it affecting his stroke from three? I don't know. Should we give him some little break here? Is that why he's getting so badly outplayed?
Let me tell you what break you need to give him. When Steph Curry makes a move, he has to deal with 6'11".
That's correct.
First of all, he's got Russell Westbrook in front of him.
Yep.
Then he's got to deal with 6'6" Roberson.
Yep.
6'11" Kevin Durant. 7 foot Steven Adams.
Yep.
6'10" Serge Ibaka. He's got to deal with that. Russell Westbrook don't have to concern himself with any of that.
Nope.
Once he blows by anybody.
I'm with you.
So again, that's the team concept in it all. Steph Curry has to fend off more than Russell Westbrook. The problem with Steph Curry right now is that if it wasn't a problem with the first 3 games you played against them in the regular season, and not just Steph Curry, all of them, Draymond Green included. If it wasn't a problem with the regular season, why is it a problem now?
Yeah, okay. So to amplify your point, I want to remind everyone, Steph Curry's the greatest shooter ever. I want to remind everyone, Russell Westbrook has consistently been one of the poorest three-point shooters in the NBA.
Less than 30%.
That's correct. And last night, if you can get him to hit a couple, it's just gravy, man. It's icing. It's like, wow, now you're really in trouble. But I got to give Russell Westbrook my ultimate respect, because for years on this show, to your point about playing out of control, I've said, nope, he's not a point guard, counterfeit, fraudulent. He's a 2-guard masquerading as a 1. Lately, he has turned into a pure point guard, in part because he got wrapped up in, oh, wow, I can have a triple-double if I get double digits in assists. And all of a sudden, he is dishing to Steven Adams and to Ibaka and to Cantor. He loves this. And he is now a pure point guard. Much better. I think he's a better point guard than Steph is. Steph has been really careless with the basketball in this series.
This series is true, but Russell Westbrook is lethal. I've been raving about him for years. I told you that. He's making me look very good right now. He's phenomenal.
They're both superstars, but shocking you guys don't agree with Twitter. For the first time this season, Golden State loses 2 straight games. How much is Steve Kerr to blame for the state of the Warriors? That is next. That was Bills GM Doug Whaley responding to questions about Sammy Watkins being injury-prone, suggesting humans shouldn't play football because of the risk of injury. We welcome Herm Edwards to the show. You played, you coached, Herm.
Yeah.
How surprised were you that he said this?
Well, I think he got a little bit caught with his foot in his mouth. I do know this. The point I'll make is real simple. It's a game of competitive violence within the framework of the rules. And I say this as a former player and as a former coach. It's a game where you test a man's will. It really is. And analytics don't show that, by the way. It's a game of mental and physical toughness over a period of 3 hours. And you got to like it. A lot of folks don't like it.
That's a fact.
A lot of people aren't meant to play football. I will make that perfectly clear as well, at all levels. It might start in Pop Warner, might start in high school. When you get to professional football, you have gone through the gauntlet of saying, you know what? I like this game. And it's a wonderful game. And I think sometimes we look at it and go, well, you know, what are these guys getting into? Players know what they're getting into. There's a certain mentality you have to play this game, okay? And it's not made for everybody. And I tell people all the time, hey, it's not meant for everybody. You'll find out right away. You'll find out right away when somebody knocks you off your spot, how you respond, okay? And we make the game all pretty because we talk about the quarterback, talk about touchdowns, talk about all that good stuff. But at the end, it's a physical game. And if you don't like it, it has a way of weeding people out. And that's okay. That's how I look at the game of football.
You know what? That was beautifully said.
Yeah.
That was very deeply true.
Well, I say this as a former player. Okay? And that's the eye test. Numbers don't tell you that. When you look a man in the eye and you knock him off his spot, you see how he responds. Numbers don't tell you that.
Analytics don't test a man's will. That was drop the mic.
That's how it works. And it'll never change.
Stephen A?
Let's all calm down. Coach is right, and Skip is absolutely right when he said that you articulated those thoughts beautifully and eloquently. You're absolutely right about the numbers, your perspective, how you view the game, etc., all on point. But the general manager, Doug Whaley, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Is he really wrong? Think about, let me get archaic here, Skip. Think about Roman times when people were out there fighting against lions and stuff like that. You had no business doing it. People did it. People was fighting with swords and spears and all. You didn't have no business doing it. People did it. Modern times, boxing. Prior to that, Skip, not prior, but after that, Skip, the UFC comes along. Do you understand that the UFC just became legalized in the state of New York? That Senator John McCain, I spoke to him personally years ago, where he considered it barbaric and was on a mission to make sure that it never gained traction in the United States of America until they, quote unquote, cleaned it up. It's one of the reasons why Dana White is so amazing as the president of the UFC, because of the way they monitor. Of course, it's a violent sport, but they do what they can to limit it because they understand how seriously hurt somebody could get, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm saying to you is that just because we do it and it's legal and it's licensed and it's a form of entertainment that we can't get enough of, doesn't mean that it's meant to do it, that we were meant to do it. Bones get broken. Limbs get shattered. Now we're discussing the issue of, chronic, what is it,
CTE,
encephalopathy, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. We got that going on. We've got all of this stuff. Yeah, granted, we'll find a way to deal with it. We've evolved as a society technologically. We'll find a way to try to maintain our level of health, et cetera, et cetera. But let's not act like this man is off his rocker saying what I think is relatively obvious. It's just that we don't care because we love the sport. It makes a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera. Have you seen Coach Herm Edwards? You know this. You see some former football players?
Oh.
You see how they walk around?
Yes, sir.
You see how some of them can't even stand up straight? Do you notice, Coach, they'll remain nameless. Do you know I've had former football players, Skip and Coach and Molly, tell me, you know why they don't want to come on First Take? Because they would have to sit down and then it's too hard for them to get up.
I know.
It's serious.
Yes.
So is he really off saying this? Of course he's not. Of course he's not. He's speaking in jest because he understands this is a game. He's been involved in football all his life. He's the GM for the Buffalo Bills. But let's not act like what he said, he's off his rocker. He's not wrong. We just don't care because we love the game too much and we're willing to stomach all the risk that come with it. But he's not wrong for saying what he said.
I loved what he said because the painful truth spilled out of his mouth. I'm sure a lot of owners, given the climate we're in right now, with this, in my opinion, bleeding heart overreaction to the concussion syndrome that we all want to improve all of our protocols for and reduce the risk as much as possible. But you said it. These players are aware from high school on what you're getting into here. And Doug Whaley is exactly right. It's a violent game that I personally don't think humans are supposed to play. That's why I have so much respect for the game. You, to play this game, had to have less regard for your body than most humans have for their bodies because you're going to have to get it hurt. It's not if, it's when you're going to get hurt and how much you're going to get hurt and how much pain tolerance you have. Now, there's a difference between getting hurt and getting injured, obviously, but you're going to have to play with all kinds of aches and pains because it's part of the profession. I used to fly back with the Cowboys even back to the 70s on their team plane after some games. Man, it was a mass unit now. It was some walking wounded, and it only increased my love for the game and my respect because it's a hard game, man. And there's skill involved, but there's guts involved. the combination of skill and guts that you just so eloquently detailed for us is why I'm such a fan of the league. A lot of people want to say, oh my God, these poor. No, that you should honor that they are choosing to risk some of their limbs for the sake of playing football at the highest level.
I would say this, Coach. First of all, let me just put myself on Front Street right here on national television. I wish I looked as good as you now. Period. That's period. But then when you take into account knowing that you played football,
yes,
I think it's a miracle watching you walk around the way that you do, work the way that you do, carrying yourself the way that you carry yourself. You don't seem to be affected at all by playing one of the most, if not the most, physical sport we have seen. I marvel at that and how healthy and fresh and vibrant you look and come across every day, because I know what you've been subjected to. And I don't know how these guys do it. I completely agree with Skip Bayless, and nobody should have a problem with what Doug Whaley had to say, because he's right on the money. It's right on the money.
Well, as I said, you know, he probably could have used a different word. But there's a mentality.
And the timing.
Mm-hmm. And you guys made the point. There is a mentality. You know it at a young age. You know.
You do.
You know.
Yeah.
You know at a young age. And the more you play, you get to decide. Mm-hmm. You know, your talent alone, you got talent, but at the end, it's your will. Because it tests your will. Mm-hmm. Every time you go out on the grass and you play, and it's for real, and they keep score, your will is about to get tested.
Yep.
And by the way, guys, maybe with the concussions, you might have to worry less. But with the league encouraging you to go low even more so they can avoid potential concussion injuries and thereby lawsuits that could potentially follow, they're basically, you know, I'm not going to lie, Skip, I don't want to use such a derogatory term as selling them down the river, but you clearly don't care if guys end up crippled, because you're encouraging guys to go lower and lower and lower. Before long, guys ain't going to be able to walk at all.
Yeah. One thing about Coach, you were one of the luckier ones, all things considered.
Yes, you were.
Right?
I got through it.
You got
never
through
missed a game, never missed a practice.
Way to go.
Never missed a show now either. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank
Perspective only you can give.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, baby.
Russell Westbrook has the champs on the brink of elimination, but has he proven that he is better than Steph Curry? We shall discuss. So, according to history, this series is likely over. Teams to take a 3-1 series lead in the conference finals are 37-2 in those series. In those series, 20 of those 37 teams closed out the series in 5 games. Stephen A., is it all over?
Well, I believe it is. I picked Golden State to win this series in 7 games. I was relying upon the greatness of Steph Curry and the combination of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I did not expect Russell Westbrook to be this dominant, and he is. So much so, he's so scary. He reminds me of what Kobe Bryant once said about him when he said he's the only dude in the league with my DNA. That's how he feels about this. Skip Bayless, almost religiously, whenever I'm watching Russell Westbrook and he goes berserk, I get a text from Allen Iverson saying, "Do you see this boy?" You know, and he obviously means that affectionately.
Yeah.
It's Allen Iverson's favorite player. This is Russell Westbrook. He goes 100 miles an hour. He comes at it. And one of the telling plays that I saw last night, Skip, Steph Curry is on the right wing, I believe, and he drills a three-pointer. Russell Westbrook comes right down the court and immediately hits a three-pointer before the half ends. It's saying, I'm not going anywhere. You're going to have to deal with me. I ask you a simple, maybe rhetorical question, Skip. What player has done that to Steph Curry this entire year? It has not happened. This is what is going on here. I would love to believe that Golden State would come back. First of all, I genuinely like them all as players. I think they're fantastic, and I think they're great. And regardless of how I'm getting on Steve Kerr, he has proven that he can coach. He's a 5-time champion as a player, okay? And he deserves our respect. I just didn't think he deserved Coach of the Year because he only coached 39 games. Not because the man can't coach. It was because he only coached 39 games. That's the only reason I was opposed to him winning Coach of the Year. But he is a champion, and he has proven his worthiness. But, Skip, I don't see a coach with answers. Somebody suggested to me start Sean Livingston, bench Andrew Bogut. I'm not sure if anything would work at this point. But the irony in all of this, Skip, as much as I want to believe that Golden State will come back and have a Game 7, because I would be there and I would love it, and as much as I would prefer to be in San Francisco, meaning Oakland, rather than OKC, the bottom line is this. I can't see two sharks in Durant and Russell Westbrook in blood-infested waters that is the Golden State Warriors. And I don't see them I can't see how they'll pass on chomping them to bits. I just can't see it. And then when I think about Steve Kerr, Skip, here's what you want. You want me to tell you something, Skip, that you may not have even thought about? If you recall, Steve Kerr in 2007 became the president and general manager of basketball operations for the Phoenix Suns. Who was this coach, Skip? It was Mike D'Antoni, who you call Mike Antoni. You said take the D out, right? Skip, why did D'Antoni end up leaving Phoenix? He ended up leaving Phoenix because Steve Kerr and Sarver wanted the man to hire essentially what amounted to a defensive coordinator to figure out a way to stop people because D'Antoni just wanted to score. And D'Antoni didn't want to hire Tom Thibodeau. So ultimately, he had to end up leaving, and he ultimately went and took the Knicks job. Well, what happened, Skip, as you watched Golden State last night give up 42 points in the second quarter, when you watched them struggle to give up 100-plus points to OKC, with OKC scoring at will? Doesn't it strike you as a tad bit odd that the Golden State Warriors actually look a little bit like the Phoenix Suns? That's what struck me, because I'm watching and I'm saying, this is the same Steve Kerr that didn't want the Phoenix Suns under D'Antoni looking the way his now Golden State Warriors are looking against OKC. Now, I only bring that up because last year it didn't apply because Golden State was big time defensively. This year they've dropped off significantly. And nobody's brought it up. But I'm bringing it up now because that's what I'm seeing. If they could get stops and stop people, maybe I'd have some faith in them. Right now, I'm at a loss. Draymond Green looks horrible. I'm glad he didn't get suspended, even though some people are going to look at that video with him tripping Enes Kanter last night and say, once again, he should get a flagrant one or something like that. But he looks awful. Steph Curry doesn't look like himself. Klay Thompson seems all by his lonesome. And Andrew Bogut is supposed to be relevant in a series like this. And he's turned into bogus status yet again. It's bad. It's bad. I hope I'm wrong. But I actually think that Golden State might get closed out on their home court tomorrow night. That's how bad I think it is right now.
Are you ready to go there?
I want to think about it for another day until tomorrow morning. Because I want to show Golden State the respect they've earned and that they deserve. And by the way, I'm a fan of Joe Lacob. You know that, Skip. I like Joe a lot. But wasn't he on the record essentially paraphrasing it, calling them the gold standard? We're ahead of the... It looks bad from the top on down. I'm looking at Joe...
I'm glad you brought that up. Just quickly, and I did communicate with Mr. Lacob about this, and he said it was a little taken out of context, which well might be. This was in the New York Times.
Yeah.
But the quote was that, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but that we are probably light years ahead of every other franchise in the way we do things. And it doesn't look that way at this moment. It doesn't look like they're light years ahead of that franchise, just for the record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're losing games, Skip. It's how they're losing. You can point to the struggles of Steph Curry. I mean, they're getting waxed, man. They're getting beat down.
Okay.
Got me looking at Joe Lacob. Got me looking for Jerry West. Where the hell is he at, Mr. Consultant? I'm looking at Steve. I'm looking at everybody right now. Because I'm like, how did this happen? How did this happen?
Okay, so you are saying they are D-O-N-E done. You actually said yesterday if Golden State loses tonight, which is last night, done, right? So you're sticking by that.
I believe they're done. I'm just debating whether it's tomorrow night or the weekend.
Okay. My answer to Molly's question, which you asked about 20 minutes ago, as I recall.
Don't be rude.
I'm kidding. I'm
Go
kidding.
ahead.
But you even went after Steve Kerr again. We are bashing Steve Kerr today.
How we bashing him?
Okay.
We're talking facts.
All right.
That's all I'm doing.
Here's just me. There is no way I'm going to leap all the way to done when we're talking about the defending champs who won an NBA record 73 games, and they have 2 of the last 3 at home. In no way am I predicting they are now going to win in 7 games, because I am not. I'm just telling you I'm not going to write them off, because I do believe Golden State, on pride, guts, energy, whatever, they will win Game 5 at home. I just think that they've come too far. They've done too much. They have greatness about them. They have proven greatness, and I think they're going to win Game 5. And Stephen A., again, my most glaring stat so far in these 4 games is that, look, just boil this down for me. Oklahoma City has shot 29 more free throws in 4 games than Golden State and made 32 more free throws. Think about that. That's 8 more free throws a game. Well, that alone will get you beat, and they're getting annihilated. But my point is that why do the refs favor one team? Well, again, Oklahoma City's gotten its breaks from the referees, but in general, you win over the subconscious, the psyche of the referees, because you just flat out play harder than the other team. Russell Westbrook is playing harder than anybody in the other jersey. Anybody. Everybody on Oklahoma City comes in, they scrap harder, they fight harder, they dive for loose balls, they win 50-50 balls, and the refs are rewarding them or awarding them for their guts and drive. And I think that's going to change. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow night at Golden State. I think they'll win Game 5. And then let's flip the script. I'll tell you the truth. As much as I admired the maturity of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, they're going to feel more pressure back home than they have ever felt in their careers, because everybody will expect them then to do exactly what they did in Games 3 and 4. And you know, and I know, sometimes the shots don't fall when you get a little jittery, and it can be a little different.
Well, we saw that big time with your boy LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm talking about talk about jittery. I mean, my Lord. I mean, with LaMarcus Aldridge, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was wondering whether or not he was wearing a diaper or something. I mean, it was that bad. It was that bad. But I will tell you this. I would never say that about the Golden State Warriors. And there's a couple of things that I want to point out here. Again, they're first class all the way. It's impossible to root against them in most instances. That's number one. And Steph Curry is a superstar. He's just having a bad couple of games, and it just happens to be against Russell Westbrook. And when you have a bad game against Russell Westbrook, you tend to look doubly bad because of how Russell Westbrook comes at you, okay? Steve Kerr, allow me to say this, Skip Bayless. Look, Mark Jackson works on this network. I love Mark Jackson, okay? But look, damn it, I ain't blaming Steve Kerr for taking that job. I would have took the job had they offered it to me, and I don't coach. You understand? Ain't his fault. Okay, so all of this stuff about, people sitting up there because they look at me and they know how much I love my man Mark Jackson, and they think, no, I'm getting on Steve Kerr because of no. No, Steve Kerr can coach. Steve Kerr knows the game of basketball. Steve Kerr deserves all the accolades he's received other than this year's Coach of the Year, because I don't think you deserve it for just coaching 39 games. But in this series, at this juncture, he is being outcoached by a rookie coach on the NBA level. He's being outcoached. I mean, it's just that simple. Look at the adjustments that Billy Donovan is making. Steve Kerr's a great guy, and I think he's been great for the game. And listen, he's just getting outcoached right now. It's just that simple to me. Okay. Now, it's not as glaring as Steph Curry's deficiencies, but still in all, there is a discrepancy there that cannot be ignored. And I can't see them coming back. If they come back, they come back. I'll be happy about it.
Let's say I'm right. Let's say Golden State wins Game 5. Let's do the hypothetical, which is feeling like a 1,000,000,000 to 1 shot. let's say Golden State then goes back to Oklahoma City, and mostly because Oklahoma City comes up short, for whatever reason, their shots don't fall, and Golden State steals Game 6 and gets to go home for Game 7. Would I bet on Golden State to beat this team 3 straight times in a Game 7 at Oracle? I'm not sure about that. I would give that more like a 50-50 proposition.
Well, let me say this to you, because you didn't bring this up, so I will. Let me look right in the camera and tell you this. If Kevin Durant, one of the top 3 players in the universe, and Russell Westbrook, a pair of one of the top, 2 of the top 5 players in the game, if they lose a 3-1 lead, they'll never live it down. The way they have looked these last 2 games, if they turn around and resemble Dr. J and Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder, and Caldwell Jones, if they sit up there and they look like those boys against Boston in the early 80s, and they surrender a 3-1 lead and lose this Western Conference Finals, after looking the way they've looked at games 3 and 4, they'll never live it down. They'll never, I'm telling you right now, they'll never live it down. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, you want to talk pressure? Fine. I don't think it's pressure yet, but they can't lose this series, not after being up 3-1 and looking the way they looked. They didn't win get up this one by luck. They've annihilated them.
Okay, but remember, just last playoffs, your man CP3 blew a 3-1 lead to the Houston Rockets.
Not the same. Not the same. Not the same. Skip. Look. CP3, I keep telling you, when you talk about basketball, he's a miniature point guard whose primary strength is being an orchestrator, a delegator, a captain. In terms of being the muscle who actually gets it done, that's the LeBrons. It was the Kobes. It was the D Wades of the world, people like that. That's Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Russell Westbrook is legitimate 6'4". He's a big guard. He is the most athletic point guard in NBA history without question, okay? You cannot judge them by the same. Chris Paul is looking for a Blake Griffin or somebody to step up and deliver. Durant and Westbrook are called upon to deliver themselves. You cannot lose a 3-1 lead in this series and live it down. If they lose this series, and I don't believe they will at this point, if they lose this series, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook will never live this down. Trust me on that. Trust me on that.
Well, I don't know. They could bounce back next year. I think they'd probably be the favorites to win it all next year.
Well, I'm just saying. What I mean by that is that it will be attached to you for the rest of your career so long as you don't win the chip.
Okay.
Maybe on both
That's what I
ends.
mean by that.
All right, Stephen A., we don't have a show tomorrow, so I want to get it on the record. Skip says that Golden State wins Game 5. Who do you have winning Game 5?
Well, he said he needed to sleep on it.
Yeah, but we don't have a show tomorrow.
Oh,
You know what? I'll make my prediction. I got to think about it. I got to think about it.
All right.
I got to think about it.
Maybe later in the show.
It's hard to pick Golden State to lose on their home court. It really is.
Okay, if they fire Steve Kerr tonight, would you then pick?
I don't think Steve Kerr should be. Listen, man. I'm not going that way. Steve Kerr could coach. He's just getting out-coached by Billy Donovan, y'all.
Okay.
No, we'll let it go. We'll give you time. So coming
Billy,
up...
damn. It's the truth.
Yes, later in the show, we want you guys to weigh in here. Is Westbrook proving that he's better than Steph Curry? Let us know on Twitter. Head to the First Take Twitter page and vote yes or no. We will share those results a little later in the show. To the East, how will LeBron and the Cavs bounce back after losing 2 straight against the Raptors? We'll tell you after the break. Michael Wilbon wrote a very interesting piece for The Undefeated about how African Americans don't seem to care too much about analytics. Wilbon said, quote, "Sports is emotional, and analytics represent the absence of emotion, the antithesis. Nobody gets into sports to be dispassionate. And it just seems to me we're the feel it, smell it, touch it people. Don't tell me that there are no black people who are good at math. There are black people who are expert at quantitative analysis. I worry that it becomes a way to exclude." Stephen A., what do you make of Wilbon's article?
Well, he's absolutely right on point. I interviewed Michael Wilbon on my SiriusXM Mad Dog Sports radio show yesterday. We talked about this because he knows that it's something that I've been going off about for quite some time. And I'm proud of him for writing about it. For those who don't know, Mike Wilbon, long before he was a star on PTI, was a star in the print business as an extraordinary columnist for the Washington Post, a pioneer in this business. And anybody in the field of sports journalism, particularly one of African-American descent like myself, we don't just love him, we revere him. He's one of the elite pioneers this business has ever seen. As far as the African-American community is concerned, he is special. And he wrote a good column yesterday, a great column yesterday, speaking about something that's a very, very pertinent issue in the profession that we're talking about. When you talk about the NBA, Skip, one of the things that I've lamented, and I don't think people have picked up on this, is that people talk about analytics, but they don't realize exactly what it's doing. It's literally ostracizing African Americans from getting job opportunities. There's no other way to slice that. Mike Wilbon is absolutely right. Whether it's the barbershop, it's the backyard during the barbecue, it's on the basketball court in Hollis, Queens, or O'Connell Park in Jamaica, or the south side of Chicago, to Compton, L.A., the list goes on and on. You don't hear brothers talking about analytics. The eye test, knowledge of the game of basketball, dissecting who can do what, etc., all comes into play. We also monitor who has the leadership capabilities. We definitely monitor what's inside your chest, your heart. How competitive are you? How feisty are you? Are you ready to be a rough rider, or are you going to wilt beneath the pressure and shrink through the vine? What are you going to do? That's how we, as African Americans, talk about the sport. Other folks used to do the same thing. The Larry Birds of the world and others. That's an old school kind of do. It ain't just black folks that's doing that way. It's a lot of old school white guys that do the same thing. But there's a new breed coming along from the MITs of the world and others where they're focused on analytics. Number one, they're trying to create it as if it's something new. Skip Bayless, I was just talking to Jimmy Jackson, former NBA player, working with Fox, now living in L.A. That's my man. We're very tight. I just saw him a few weeks ago at the Final Four in L.A., and he was reminding me about how Pat Riley was doing analytics in the 90s. You understand? This is not new. But what happens is they introduce these analytics, dude, introduce stuff today as if it is so new. And what happens is they convey this information, usually in writing, with numbers, and that is a language the billionaire owners speak. And so when you go to an owner and you're showing him numbers and you're quantifying how a player should be drafted, how a player should be picked and joined to a roster, how they should be utilized, etc. And more importantly, you're doing it in a cost-efficient manner. That's the language that the owners love to hear. So all of a sudden you get that guy and you make him president of basketball operations or a GM, okay? And what you do is, if you're that GM, who do you hire? You hire guys who speak that language, who you've ingratiated yourself with and vice versa, who gravitates to you and vice versa, who you hang out with and drink together and talk about all of these things. And it's never us. And then suddenly you're outside looking in. And we look at the African-American coaches. There's been several openings, Skip, since the NBA season has ended. We've got Earl Watson, who got his interim tag stripped away, so he's not a coach. We got Nate McMillan that got hired. Outside of that, you don't hear much else. We got a guy like Mike Woodson, who won 54 games and took the Knicks to the Eastern Conference semifinals. He struggles to get an interview. We've got Mark Jackson, who had a lot to do with the success of the Golden State Warriors, basically gift wrapping Steve Kerr and those boys a championship situation. And what happens? He's out. And by the way, nobody was talking about him in terms of jobs. When he just interviewed in Minnesota, that was the first time he got a call since Denver from last year. But this is a man that won 51 games. And you see guys coming out the wazoo from college and in the pros who don't look like, who are not African American, okay? And they're getting one opportunity after another. Yeager in Memphis, he's gone. A week later, he's got the job in Sacramento. What the hell has he done? When he got the Memphis job, he got it because he advertised, lived off the analytics and beyond, and swore up and down that he was going to do something different than Lionel Hollins. 2 weeks into the job, he was doing the exact same thing Lionel Hollins was doing and kept his job for 3 years. Is gone, and before he has a chance to pass gas, this dude's got another head coaching job. These are the kind of things that are taking place. And if at the rate it's going, don't be surprised if in a league where there are 30 teams and obviously 30 head coaches, if 10% or less of them happen to be black. Black coaches, head coaches, are becoming an endangered species. They are in a world of trouble. You always use them as assistants, of course, because you can always sit up there and say, well, you just follow instructions and do this and do that. We will lead the way. That's what's going on here, and it's been going on for quite a while now. So I'm proud of Michael Wilbon for writing about it.
Allow me to amplify your point about Michael Wilbon. I was honored to be a part of some of the first live debate on this network back in the early 90s with Michael Wilbon and Mitch Albom. And I cherish him as a broadcaster and commentator and a writer. And I was happy to see this piece, and it was beautifully and brilliantly done on an extremely important topic that I am very concerned about, as are you. I hark back to a theme that's come up on this show repeatedly over the last 6 or 7 years. You and I have been involved in this routinely, this kind of debate, in which we have an ex-athlete on who reaches for the trump card of, you don't know because you didn't play. Have we heard that before? You played, obviously, at a higher level than I played. You did play some college basketball, got hurt.
Yes.
But my point is, obviously, neither one of us played in the NBA, or we didn't play college football or pro football or baseball at the highest level. So, you know what my answer has become to all those ex-jocks who throw that in my face?
What is that?
That's ironic, because half the team builders now in pro sports didn't play above the high school level because they're analytics guys. It's revenge of the nerds out there. Some of the best architects in sports did not play past high school because this is happening. Now, I, for one, as you know from debating with me on the show, I'm more of an eye test guy. I'm a gut feeling guy. Can he play or can he not play? Now, I like to reinforce my gut feeling with a stat or two occasionally, as do you, but I'm not going to hang my hat on what the second and third level numbers tell me about a player. But this is happening all too often in both basketball and baseball, and now, to a certain degree, in football. So to your point, I see 7 black head coaches left in basketball. What's the percentage now, black basketball?
Yeah, about 70+%, about 77.
77%, okay. 7 coaches left. I count 6 who lost their job. And by the way, one of the 7, the addition you pointed out, Nate McMillan, is a non-analytics guy, an old-school basketball coach who got hired by an old-school non-analytics white coach and great white player named Larry Bird. So don't underestimate that. That's why Nate was able to get a job, because Larry Bird's not into the numbers.
I mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now, let's just quickly look at the sport of baseball, which is much stronger, you know, it's much more analytics-driven than even basketball, certainly than football. We're down to, if I'm not missing anybody, Dusty Baker and Dave Roberts, the only 2 black managers. We have 0 Latino managers. Is it because of this whole theory, this notion, this advancing of the statistics where they're getting shut out because they don't believe in it?
Well, Skip, my answer to that question is this. That may very well be it, but what those folks need to understand is that in the eyes of the black community, we view it as far more incendiary. We view it as just another mechanism to justify keeping us out and away from those opportunities. And that's where it resonates profoundly. And if I may say so myself, I love a lot of these players. I think they're great ambassadors. I think they're fantastic role models. But it's times like this where the Jim Browns, the Bill Russells, the Muhammad Alis, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, to a lesser degree because it came later on, the Isaiah Thomases of the world and others come into my mind's eye because I'm sitting up here saying, why in the hell am I sitting here talking about this? Why in the hell is Michael Wilbon talking about this before players say something about it? You got a league that's over 70% black, and I don't hear one single brother in the league bringing it up. And I got a problem with that.
I'm not sure they've thought of it yet. I'm not sure this has occurred to anybody.
Come on. Listen, listen, if you're around the league, you coaching in you playing in the league, and you don't notice the numbers dwindling before your very eyes. Come on. I mean, if we notice it, how the hell do you not notice it? And you're playing in the league. And again, I'm not one of those. I'm not politicking for or advocating rather for individuals who are unqualified to be hired. We're talking about a fair and equitable process. We're talking about, and I'm not even advocating a Rooney Rule per se, because I'm not sure that's an effective, because you got these owners that'll just give you lip service and go through the process just to be going through the process. But I am at the point where I think that Commissioner Adam Silver and the league office, let's face reality, the NBA has done an absolutely marvelous job of addressing the issue of diversity. It has globalized its brand like no other. I know they care about this stuff. I know what Richard Lapchick with the Sports Institute and the marvelous work that he's done. I know how much it's meant to the NBA and former Commissioner David Stern to have him involved. But at the same time, having said all of that, I do believe that while it may not be a quote-unquote state of emergency, the NBA needs to step up and keep its eyes on what is transpiring before our very eyes. Black dudes are being weeded out of potential coaching opportunities, and in their eyes, they believe that folks are hiding behind analytics to justify it. And I don't know if that's factual, but I do know that the transactions that have been taking place do not lie. Dave Yeager, I know he did a good job, 28 different starters, but my God, what the hell have you done to have a job a week after getting bounced from Memphis? It's almost like Memphis did him a favor by letting him go so he could get the Sacramento job. It's like he's basketball version, Skip, of Chip Kelly. How the hell that happened? What has he done for that to happen?
Yeah, I agree. And I think he's sort of a non-analytics guy, by the way, but that's a whole nother issue.
But those other guys are. Well, go ahead.
Will you allow me to reiterate one strong, powerful point that Michael Wilbon made in his piece?
Sure.
It's not that black people obviously aren't capable of comprehending statistics and using them, analytics. It's just that you're raised a different way. You're more on emotion. You're on feel. You're more like your eye test. Like, but it's not like if I sat you down and I said, let's try to comprehend all these, you'd pick it up faster than I would. So it's not that you can't. It's that it's not what you do. It's not what you know.
You're absolutely right. But Skip, they actually do use the analytics. They just don't believe it should be the be-all and end-all. Yeah. Mike Woodson used analytics. Larry Drew used analytics. Who knows if Tyronn Lue is using it? But
Probably.
in the end, the bottom line is, again, it feels like it's the latest mechanism to ostracize blacks from getting these jobs in a league that's over 70% black. You know what? That is a problem.
You know what the bottom line fix here is? More black executives in the hiring positions, the decision-making positions.
And how about a couple of other black owners?
That would help.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And by the way, Michael Jordan, but his coach is white, Steve Clifford. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Steve Clifford's a damn good coach.
Good point.
And I just want to remind everybody, if they want to check out this piece, it's on The Undefeated. It's a new ESPN site that just launched last week. Tremendous work there on sports culture and its content, all from an African-American perspective. So check that out, theundefeated.com. Another serious issue to address when we come back here. The NFL tries to limit concussions in the game. One general manager suggests the game might not be made for humans. The coach, Herm Edwards, will join us, and he'll break it down for us. That's next.